Davis, it feels like we've just gotten used to the fact that every year when April comes around, the first name off the board is going to be a quarterback.
It's not fair, but we're getting used to it.
It kind of is a pattern. But the last two times it hasn't happened, interesting, it was both guys who line up on the edge, Janavian Clowney and Myles Garrett. This year, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State, right here in Indianapolis this week, he said, I should be the number one pick in this draft. Do you think he's right?
He should be. He will be. It's a matter of who's going to take him. I think we've come to that conclusion. Even this early, sitting here at the beginning of March, we know that Abdul Carter is going to be the first overall pick, but we just don't know who's going to take him. At least it's heavily leaning that way. Daniel Jeremiah, one of the lead analysts for NFL Network, he was talking earlier today, and I found this. I know how athletic Abdul Carter is, but I thought this was crazy. He talked about right now, if Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter lined up when healthy, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter lined up and ran a 40, that Abdul Carter might beat him. I mean, that to me, I mean, he said he could run sub 4.4. You talk about an edge guy that could run sub 4.4. We understand why he is going to be the first pick of the draft.
Well, unfortunately, we're not going to get the chance to see whether he can do that this week because he's coming off a shoulder injury late in the season, is not going to do the physical testing. Okay, one of the things we get here in Indianapolis, a lot of trade rumors, a lot of buzz going around, and the one that has dominated a lot of the conversation this week, Matthew Stafford given permission to explore the market by the Rams. And look, there's all kinds of different reasons where guys may want a new location or want that ability. We know with Myles Garrett, it's, hey, I want to win a Super Bowl and I'm not going to win one in Cleveland. Doesn't seem like that would be the motivation for Matthew Stafford to want to explore in Los Angeles. This one seems, well, frankly, about money because he feels he's in the $25 million range. You look at where the quarterback market is. Yeah, he's 37. He's still productive. How does this one end, do you think?
I'm with you. This is a negotiating ploy. I think it ends with Matthew Stafford back in L.A. I can't see how Matthew Stafford, who's made over $300 million, has a young family, has a great relationship with Sean McVay, lives in beautiful Los Angeles, and he's going to move to go rebuild with the Raiders in Vegas. I don't see it happening. I strictly think that Matthew Stafford is using these teams to negotiate, and I absolutely expect Matthew Stafford to be back in L.A.
Yeah, at 37 years old, I don't know if you want to do two things you'd want to avoid as a quarterback. One, to be on a losing team, and two, to get beat up at the end of your career, which would seem the potential for both of those things to happen much more likely than if he stays in Los Angeles. Well, speaking of players who we think are going to stay in their spot, this week the director of player personnel, Duke Tobin of the Cincinnati Bengals, said he is prepared to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. And, you know, there's a stat about Jamar Chase that just blows me away. You ready?
Yes.
He's 24.
I know. It's insane.
How can he be 20? He's about to turn 25 in March.
He's been in the NFL 9 years. It feels like
that. And he's coming off a season in which he won the Triple Crown. Receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns. This one feels like a no-brainer.
If he's the only thing curiosity or the only thing curious about this is why did it take the Bengals so long? But then the Bengals seem to do everything backwards. It's going to cost them more money than it would have if they would have just signed him to the max last year. He's a max guy. He's the second best, if not the best receiver in the NFL, and it should have been done a long time ago. Would have saved them some money, but that seems to be how the Bengals operate, but I'm glad he's getting it, well-deserved.
Well, and when he does get it, he will overtake Justin Jefferson at $35 million a year, who was the highest-paid receiver in the National Football League, still is the highest-paid receiver in the National. When you think back of that college team at LSU, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, no wonder they won a national championship. That is remarkable when you think of all of that. Okay, one more thing. We'll end on a bit of a lighter note here. The tush push. It's been around for a few seasons. No team has used it as effectively, as often as the Philadelphia Eagles. They just won the Super Bowl. And by coincidence, the Green Bay Packers, who lost to Philadelphia in the playoffs, have submitted a rule change proposal to have the tush push banned. And part of this, I think, comes from that game against Washington, where they jumped offside multiple times at the goal line, ultimately threatened by the officials saying, hey, we're going to award a touch. I'd never seen that before. And, you know, Green Bay looking at that saying, okay, this has now pushed this to the point of ridiculous. We got to ban this play. Fair or not?
No, you can't ban the play. And my argument is the same as what you hear from Philly, and is that they practice this play a lot. They went out and got the personnel. Whether Jalen Hurts, they're probably going to draft him regardless of the tush push, but they have a quarterback that can do it. They have an offensive line that can do it. Every team doesn't have the personnel to be able to execute the tush push. That's why everybody doesn't do it. So there's no unfair advantage. If you want to do the tush push, get a quarterback that can squat 600 pounds and a big interior offensive line and call it a day. So Matthew Stafford, wherever he lands next year, they won't be doing the tush push. So there it is.
No, there'll be no 37, 38-year-old tush push, as you say, whether that's in Los Angeles or elsewhere, somewhere else in the National Football League. That's our roundup of some of the news making the rounds here this week in Indianapolis.